What if I told you that a scrap of music paper helped prevent the annihilation of an entire civilization? I promise you've never heard this tale before. Sit back, relax, and let me take you back to the year 1740. This is the tale of how music, of all things, achieved what armies and diplomacy could not: a peaceful resolution in the middle of impending chaos. Our story unfolds in Dresden, the capital of Saxony, a vibrant and culturally rich city. At this time, Friedrich Augustus II was the ruler of Saxony, and his court was at the forefront of Europe's musical arts. But Dresden wasn't merely a peaceful paradise for music enthusiasts. Oh no. In 1740, it was a powder keg of rising tension as the War of the Austrian Succession loomed over Europe like a storm cloud. Friedrich Augustus II found himself caught in a precarious position. Neighboring kingdoms were eyeing each other suspiciously. Alliances were brittle, and mistrust ruled the day. Just beyond his borders, Frederick II of Prussia, and yes, this is the same Frederick the Great you might have read about, was making bold military moves that unnerved Saxony and its allies. It was during this ominous time that Frederick the Great decided to make an unexpected visit to Dresden. Now, this was no casual vacation. Oh, far from it. This visit had a dual purpose: diplomacy and dominance. You see, Frederick was a brilliant tactician, not just on the battlefield, but off it as well. He believed showing up personally could intimidate his enemies, while allowing him to gauge the city's readiness for war. Picture this. Frederick enters Dresden's court, dressed in a soldier's uniform rather than the elaborate garb typical for royalty. His mere presence sets the room abuzz. People whisper, tension rises. And of course, Friedrich Augustus II is caught in a tight spot. How do you entertain someone who might declare war on you at any given moment? Now, among the many treasures of Dresden was its illustrious music scene. Composers like Johann Sebastian Bach were creating masterpieces, and music was not just a pastime, but a lifeline of culture and diplomacy. Friedrich Augustus II knew this well. Looking for an avenue to disarm Frederick, he instructed his court musicians to hold a concert in the Prussian king's honor. And this is where things get fascinating. Among the courtiers that day was none other than a man named Johann Joachim Quantz. Now, Quantz was no ordinary musician. He was a virtuoso flutist and composer who had been teaching, wait for it, Frederick the Great himself. Yes, that's right. The potentially invading king and Quantz had a history that went back years. In fact, much of Frederick's own musical prowess had been shaped by Quantz during his younger days. So what did Quantz do? He devised a plan. During the concert, he presented a brand new composition called the Peace Fugue. This wasn't just any fugue. This was a technical and emotional masterpiece tailored specifically for Frederick. Written for the flute, an instrument Frederick was famously passionate about playing, the Peace Fugue was a challenge, a tribute, and a message all wrapped into one. As the concert began, tension filled the air. Frederick sat stoically, as if sizing up an opponent. The first notes trickled in, and for the first time that evening, something extraordinary happened. Frederick leaned forward. Then he closed his eyes. The relentless warrior persona softened, if only just. The intricate interwoven melodies seemed to do the impossible. They captured Frederick's attention, pulling him into an ethereal emotional space where the strains of war paused for the duration of a song. And then, Quantz did something daring. He invited Frederick to take up the flute and play alongside the court orchestra. Imagine the scene: the conqueror of Prussia, flute in hand, rising to perform. The hall holds its breath. The music begins, now a shared experience, as Frederick pours his soul into Quantz's fugue. By the end of the piece, Frederick not only praised Quantz for his genius, but deemed the Dresden court as a home of unparalleled beauty and artistry. More importantly, in the days that followed, Frederick extended his stay in Dresden. He dined with Friedrich Augustus II, attended more concerts, and engaged in what was described as a remarkable period of dialogue between the two monarchs. Though alliances were still tricky, this musical encounter was enough to stave off immediate conflict between Prussia and Saxony. Now, let's rewind for just a moment to appreciate why this encounter was so impactful. Frederick the Great was a man who made decisions based on strategy, power, and often cold pragmatism. And yet, a single composition, crafted with such precision and emotional depth, was enough to alter his course of action, if only temporarily. Here's the kicker. The Peace Fugue represented something bigger than music. It was an olive branch, an abstract but deeply human appeal to preserve what is beautiful amidst the ugliest specter humanity faces: war. Historians argue that these few peaceful moments influenced Frederick's perception of Saxony in lasting ways, helping deter an earlier invasion of their lands. And Johann Quantz? He went down in history as more than just a brilliant composer. He's remembered as someone who proved that art and humanity carry the power to shift even the mightiest forces. So next time someone tells you history is just about wars and treaties, remember this story. Humanity is more nuanced than that. Empires rise and fall, treaties are signed and forgotten, but the delicate notes of a flute, they echo forever when they touch the right hearts. So, did music save Saxony from war? Maybe it wasn't the only factor in a complicated era of diplomacy, but it's one shining example of how culture transcends chaos. And one thing's for sure, every time the Peace Fugue was played in the courts of Dresden, it was a reminder of what almost was, and the music that helped prevent it. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Be sure to subscribe to Chronicles of Human History for more tales where the epic meets the surprising. And who knows, the next episode might just change the way you see history forever. Ensure the expanded voiceover is even more entertaining, but that it maintains the same style, tone, and key points as the original.